Hey guys, and welcome back for another episode of Victory. Can you believe that we're already up to episode 13? This is crazy. I'm just like sitting back reflecting on this year. We've gone over so much already. So, today's episode, we're going to be talking about the experienced professional. We've already gone over the young professional. And I believe where we left off last time was my experience working at KPMG. I touched upon a little bit of that and what that looked like, supporting the lead tax partner, and unfortunately, him passing away, and that being the reason why I decided to leave. But what I didn't get into in that last episode was really the topic of like office and corporate politics. It's a ugly one. It's the whole concept behind in corporate that everyone lives by, which is perception is reality. And I heard it so many times all throughout my corporate career. It's a saying that, like I said, in corporate they love to live by, and almost in every annual or biannual review, I was sitting down with my superior, the person I reported to, direct report to, and they're telling me perception is reality. And it's probably why I have like this feeling, this really negative, icky feeling associated with that saying now, because how people perceive you to be is their own perception of you. It's not reality, at least not in my opinion. I completely go against the grain when it comes to that thought process, because majority of times the way people view you has everything to do with them and what's going on in their head, and not really anything to do with you. And so I want to dive into that a little bit deeper, because at KPMG, while I was very happy at that company, um, nothing's perfect. You're always going to have your grievances. At every job, there's going to be things that you love about it and things that you don't love about it. One of the things that I really didn't love about KPMG was the rest of the admin team. My team, AMCS, that I supported was fantastic. I had great relationships with them. I had a great relationship with the executive that I supported. Conrad, as I mentioned, spoke so highly of him. But it's the other executive assistants that were supporting other, tax audit teams, um, that we came into some issues, and it's like colliding personalities. I have a very strong personality. I'm very outspoken. If I have an idea, I'll speak up about it. If no one's taking leadership, I'll take the lead. I don't hesitate when it comes to that. If we're in a meeting or a conference and I have a question, I'll raise my hand. I don't hold back. And sometimes what I've realized, or what I've been told, is that I have the ability to rub people the wrong way by just being myself. And I've called it like watering myself down. Like, coming from the East Coast to the West Coast, it's a very different approach when it comes to business. Like on the East Coast, everything's fast and we work on yesterday's time. Everything's needed yesterday. Today's not good enough. You should have had that 5 hours ago. You should have had that 10 hours ago. It's a little bit more lax and chill and laid back here on the West Coast. We're 3 hours behind, and um, I wouldn't say that people aren't getting things done, but I definitely would say without hesitation that people on the West Coast are just not as ambitious as people on the East Coast. I know people are going to come for me for that, but we live in a beach town. It's San Diego here. Like, there's a better work-life balance here for sure, because people actually want to get out, enjoy the sun, and maybe like go to the beach and, have fun things to do. Whereas we get maybe 3 nice months out of the year in New York, New Jersey. So I take all of that into consideration, but I definitely had to change my approach to business when I got settled in on the West Coast. I had to be very careful with choosing my words and the language that I used in emails. On the East Coast, people are very direct and matter of fact, and they not so much with the fluff, what I call fluff, like all the nice words. It's like, hey, do you have this? When can you get it to me by? Versus like, really hope you had a great weekend. Hope you're off to a great Monday morning. Just following up on this request. Can you please give me a response? It's very different way of communicating, West versus East Coast. And on the East Coast, nobody will get offended if you just get straight to the point and ask like what it is you need to ask. But on the West Coast, people will take very much offense to like not starting with the intro fluff words, and just be like, oh, she's brash, or oh, she's bossy. Um, yeah, so I've had to water myself down quite a bit, over here on the West Coast in order to continue to build in my career and my success. I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing. I think it's been good to make those changes to myself, to slow down a little bit and take the time to cultivate and build more meaningful relationships. That's one thing that I would say is more on the positive side is, I think back to the coworkers that I had on the East Coast, while I was at Prudential, even Tenary Economics Group, um, Broadridge even. I made great relationships while I was there, and that's what they was while I was there. I know that if I pick up the phone and call any of them, they take my call, but those relationships haven't been maintained or cultivated in the time that I moved across the country. Occasionally, I might get a message on LinkedIn or even on Facebook to like as a happy birthday or something like that. But I'm not actually staying in contact with these individuals. Where some of the individuals that I worked with here on the West Coast on my prior corporate roles, I'm still friends with, and we still sometimes hang out and talk, and communicate with each other regularly. So um, I guess that's like the added benefit a little bit. But really, I mean, other than that, I would say that was the most challenging thing working at KPMG was like navigating through those difficult relationships with personality conflicts and maybe a little bit of like a power struggle between me and the other EAs, like working to be like the head honcho a little bit. Um, I just didn't feel like I was like part of their clique, or like I had my one friend, her name was Jennifer, and like her and I were really cool, and she was like the one I would hang out with, but like it was us and then like everybody else. So, you know, it wasn't, I was happy to move away from that, and to start new. Like obviously Conrad's death is what essentially prompted that change, but I was excited for a new start and like having an opportunity to build a new relationship in a new company. So then that's when I went to AMN Healthcare. And I loved working at that company. Like it had a very young culture, like a really young atmosphere. Like everyone was, it was like the perfect blend of East versus West Coast because people were hustlers and go-getters there because it was like staffing, nurse staffing, like recruiting. So it's kind of sales based in a sense. Getting those contracts and like that is dependent upon like how much money you make based off commission. So there was definitely more of like a go-getter approach, I would say. Um, and there was a lot of really cool team building things that we did in order to maintain like the unity amongst everyone. So like we would regularly have like celebrations for like big deals that were closed, and we'd have president's forum, which was for all the top performers in the company. It's an all expense paid trip for them and a significant other, someone of their choice, to celebrate their really good year. We'd have like company holiday parties and like a whole bunch of other stuff to like celebrate different things in the office. KPMG did that too, but I feel like AMN just did a better job of it. Or maybe it was, again, attributed to the fact that it had a much younger culture. It was also the first time that I had been exposed to an EA conference, like a conference specifically for executive assistants. I was able to attend one that they hosted internally at their dual headquarters in Dallas. So for all AMN executive assistants, we were to go to this conference. So internal meaning like AMN only. And then I was granted a stipend, to attend an offsite conference called Office Ninjas, which was specifically for executive assistants, administrative assistants, but across the nation. So it wasn't specific to any one company or industry even, but a place for all executive assistants to come together and to sharpen and like hone their skills. And that was really awesome. It was me and one other executive assistant who were approved to go from AMN. And we just had a great time. We learned a lot, and I highly recommend attending conferences like that for your skill set, like for what it is that you do, regardless if it's executive assistant or if it's a tax professional. Like, just really important to get around other people that are doing what you're doing and building that networking community. But while that was really the upside of working at AMN, and just really how loved and appreciated I was, like my mom ended up passing away about a month after I had joined the company. And I was at work when I got the news. And when I tell you everyone banded together to come into support of me, like I nicknamed AMN Amen, because it felt like they were my saving grace. Like, I don't know how I could have made it through that really tough time in my life if I didn't have such supportive coworkers. I also ended up meeting, it was one of my executives' direct reports. She was a director at the time, and a senior director at the time. And whenever I start a new role, I always set up one-on-ones with all of my executives' direct reports so I can meet them, understand what their needs are, how they need me to support them in support of the executive that I'm supporting. So, because normally that support kind of extends out to their direct reports. And so she comes up to my desk and she goes, "This is going to be a different one-on-one." I said, "Oh yeah, how so?" She's like, "We're gonna go get some coffee." I said, "Coffee? Where are you from?" She goes, "I'm from New York." And I was like, "I'm from Jersey." And from there, she's like, "You're gonna be my work daughter." And like, to this day, she's literally like my mom. Like, she stepped in as like, um, what was a work mom to like a real mom after my mom passed away. So it was like, that day changed everything for our relationship. And other coworkers came to my support too. Took a couple of days off of work, and when I finally came back into the office, my desk was filled with flowers, and just everyone with like words of encouragement, support, emails, you name it. So like, it was a great environment in that regard, where like people were just so loving and supportive and friendly and young and just energetic. And like, I hope I'm painting the picture, because that was like all the great things about it. Now, again, with the corporate politics and like that issue, my biggest grievance when I was working at AMN was, again, with the perception is reality. Like, you guys see how I look. And we talked about this in the last episode, which was the church girl, where I got judged based off of my appearance and told that I was too pretty to serve in church, that I would be a distraction to the men. Well, the reason why I had pretty much zero tolerance for being told that in church is because I had continuously been told this all throughout my corporate career. Once I had started to lose the weight, at first when I was at Broadridge Financial, I got wind that the cafeteria workers had a rumor spreading about me saying that I looked like Kim Kardashian. Then when I got to KPMG, it's like, or actually, even before that, if I go way back, like I'm talking Prudential days, I got talked to about my nails and my nails being too long and how they looked unprofessional. But yeah, it didn't affect the way that I typed. It didn't affect my work performance in any way. It just rubbed people wrong that I had long nails. And even then, like, I've always been very classy with my nails, like French tips, like not crazy colors, not crazy designs, like very just basic. But I prefer to have longer nails because I have child-sized hands. And when my nails are short, my hands look stubby and ugly, and I don't like the way that they look. And so long nails makes me feel like I have regular size hands and like feminine, elongated looking fingers. That's a personal preference. Why shouldn't I be able to wear that at work? That was a problem when I was at Prudential, and I got written up about it. um, so it's like in corporate, like, especially on the East Coast, people are very, like, particular about the way that you look, like your presentation, how you dress, your nails, your hair, all of that. The West Coast, they wouldn't say so much, but they'll gossip behind your back. Like, they might let you have the long nails and not say anything to your face, but they're definitely talking about you behind your back and making commentary like, oh, she only got hired because, the boss has a hard on for her. I've talked about this in an episode with a guest that I hosted, where it's like, being an attractive woman in business is difficult. It's difficult being a baddie in business because people don't think you could be both. People don't think that you can be beautiful and also have brains. Like, it's almost like beauty and brains don't belong together in many people's minds. If you're beautiful, you're a bimbo. But being beautiful and smart is like crazy. It's a crazy concept to wrap your head around. So, you know, I let a lot of the rumors kind of just like fly over my head and like didn't let it bother me. I continued to, dress for success. I never wore anything that was too provocative, but I do have a curvy body. And so when I wear things, they tend to be somewhat form fitting. And so, you know, people would maybe tell you that I looked sexy in the office, but if I didn't have hips and ass and boobs, like, they may have not said that, if I didn't have the body that I had. But because I have the body that I have and I wear things that fit my body properly, it could be perceived, again, perception's reality. It could be perceived as such. And because of the perception, then they might make their reality that I'm sleeping with the boss. The one who I've been to his house, met his wife, know his kids, and no chance in fucking hell. Excuse my French, but these are the things that I'm up against. The two instances that really stand out to me, and just, man, every time I think about it, like, my blood boils. So I'm only a couple months in at AMN at this point. So I started working there in February. By May, early May, because it was Cinco de Mayo weekend when we went, it was our first President's Forum trip. And so I helped to plan and coordinate the event in support of some of the other EAs who have been doing it for years and had a lot of experience. I'm asked to attend the trip to be support to our C-suite and the executives that I support. I'm told that I can bring a guest even. But at the time, I wasn't dating anyone seriously. And I didn't want to bring someone just to have someone there when I knew I was going to be working. I wanted to be focused, wanted to be dialed in. I didn't want to have to babysit anyone or feel like, it was a chore having to, like, make sure someone's good. So I chose to come alone. Well, I thought it was a fantastic trip. I had a really great time. And when I get back from the trip, I'm being pulled into a meeting with my SVP, who tells me that there was feedback that was shared on the trip that apparently I was a little too friendly with some of the significant others, some of the spouses. My jaw dropped. I was in utter and complete disbelief. He goes, Victoria, before you say anything, I just want to say, my wife and I, we were with you majority of the time. We didn't observe anything of the nature of what people are describing. He's like, so all I can say is this. When you're on a trip where it's all inclusive, all expense paid, people are, intaking immense amounts of alcohol and they're having fun, a lot of times, like, they're going to be in their feelings and insecurities are going to arise, and you're an attractive woman, you're there by yourself. He's like, the way that I think we can beat this moving forward is, like, next year, just bring a significant other, bring a plus one. I don't care if it's your gay best friend and he just acts the role. Like, this is the way to avoid it. And, like, I was like, where's Ashton Kutcher? Like, am I being punked right now? Is this for real? Because people talk about discrimination in the workplace all the time for other things like skin color or um, religion, like a whole bunch of different things. But, like, being discriminated against because you're too pretty and being told that you have to bring a plus one because other people are insecure with your beauty, like, what? So yeah, that didn't sit well with me. That rubbed me wrong. But I like my job. I like money. I want to keep making money. So I kept my mouth shut and just kept it pushing. And the second incident that happened that really just kind of rubbed me wrong was a couple months later when we were planning the holiday party. And we're sitting in a planning meeting with other executive assistants and executives, and I'm hearing what they've done in the past. And I make a suggestion, as I mentioned earlier. I have no issue kind of raising my hand and speaking up when I have an idea, or where I can add value, or a process that we can be a little bit more efficient on. So I said, well, in the past years, where have we gotten bartenders from? Where have we gotten DJs? Who have we utilized? Do we have relationships there, or are we just kind of pulling in anyone? I said the reason why I asked is because I have a few friends that work in the industry. I might be able to save the company some money by leveraging those relationships. So I'm getting pulled into a meeting after the planning meeting, again by the same SVP, that's telling me, you know, in the future, you might just want to mention that you have some relationships with people. What did he say? Um, like he didn't like the fact that I used the word that's what it was. He wanted me to say relationships with industry professionals. Instead, what I had said at the time was I have some friends who are bartenders and DJs. And so he was saying that it didn't look right saying that, and that it would have been better received if I would have said I had relationships with industry professionals. But my counterpart, who was sitting in there, another executive assistant who's married and has kids, if she were to say, I have a friend who's a DJ, or I have a friend who is a bartender, I almost guarantee you there wouldn't have been the same conversation happening. So again, it was based off of my look. This perception is reality. She's got a look where she looks like she might be a party girl. And so it's probably not the best look for her to be saying that in a meeting, when all I'm trying to do is save the money company, or the company money. What's wrong with that? So anyway, needless to say, I wasn't looking to leave. I wasn't looking to change my career or company or anything of the sort. But I got poached on LinkedIn by a recruiter. It was for a company called Locked In, and they made me a really sweet offer. I mean, they offered me $30,000 more in pay, a sign-on bonus, an extra week of vacation, and it was a leadership opportunity. I mean, in every which way, they sweetened this deal to the point where I was like, how can I say no? But I really didn't want to leave AMN. I didn't want to leave AMN, the company that, have been there for me the past year through like such a hard time in my life. So naturally, I went into a meeting with my two executives that I was supporting, and I asked them if they could match the offer that I was made. Well, that didn't go over too well. My SVP basically said, hey, listen, you're at the top of your salary range already. There's just absolutely nothing that we can do to bump you up any further. And I support your growth in your professional development. So if this is something you want to do, I can't, fight you on it. I think it's a great opportunity, which I would say is like the normal response for somebody who like also has wanted to build and grow their career. He mentioned like, I was hoping that we would have you for at least 2 years, and it hasn't even been a full year. So I understood that. But the president that I supported was livid. I mean, he stormed out of the meeting, like pissed off. Just like a very wildly, like, unexpected response. And so this was around the holiday time. Like it was literally around December, like early December, when I came to them with this. And yeah, I gave 3 weeks notice that I was going to leave. And next thing you know, the president that I was supporting was trying to force me out, telling me that he didn't want me in the office working anymore. He was insisting upon me taking 2 weeks vacation, like my vacation that I had racked up, and that, he would release me early. Like I had offered 3 weeks notice. He's basically saying, hey, give us 2 weeks, but in that 2 weeks, like, just use your vacation time. Like, I don't want you here. Um, and I was like, yeah, that's not happening. Like, that's actually illegal in the state of California. And he didn't like that I knew my shit and came out and started screaming at me in the middle of the floor. The whole situation was like really shocking. I knew he had like a temper. And I knew that that was like very difficult for him to like process this new news that I was going to be leaving. But someone reported him, not me. I swear to God, on a Bible. I put my hand on a Bible, not me, but someone reported him to HR for the way he spoke to me on the floor. And, you know, during an exit interview, a lot of stuff came out where it's like just mistreatment, just things that were said that shouldn't have been said. Um, the nature of an executive assistant is discretion and integrity always. But a lot of times our executives don't realize that you get loyalty by showing that loyalty to somebody, by supporting their work endeavors, and treating them with the respect, because they're making sure that your life is good and positive and flows smoothly, I should say. So yeah, I didn't end up taking my 2 weeks vacation because, again, that was illegal. So I stayed there for the time that I promised. I think it was 2 weeks instead of three. I offered three. I only gave two. That's what we settled on. And I went off to my new role. And while I was in my new role, getting acquainted, I was really excited for the new executive I was going to be supporting. Much to my surprise, she tells me that the executive who just gave me such a hard time from the place that I was leaving contacted her on LinkedIn. Um, and I don't know if this was like supposed to be a scare tactic or what, but it was, super inappropriate for him to be like trying to reach out to my new executive and cultivate a relationship to like scare me in any way. Like, I had nothing to be ashamed or afraid of. I operated with the utmost professionalism and integrity. And I did what I said I was going to do. So yeah, that was a little interesting. What was even more interesting is that only 6 weeks later at this new job, I was being pulled into a meeting kind of unexpectedly by HR, and they told me that they didn't feel like I was the right cultural fit for the job. 6 weeks in, after they just stole me and sweetened the deal every which way. So it's hard to not believe, or think at least, that my last executive kind of like completely blackballed that for me. Um, but who knows, being told that you're not the right cultural fit is such a broad like conversation, like such a broad like explanation for why they don't want you to be there. I mean, they gave me a severance package, but just imagine how devastating to go from what I thought was like a very secure position, where I wasn't even looking, wasn't even searching, but being handed this amazing opportunity, thinking that the grass is greener. And it was a perfect example of how sometimes the grass isn't greener. Now, retrospectively, like looking back, reflecting on the decision that I made, would I have made a different decision? Probably not. While I wasn't unhappy at AMN, I also felt like I couldn't fully be myself, and I was walking on eggshells all the time because of this perception as reality based off of my physical appearance. Um, there was too many instances that were brought to my attention of, hey, like, watch what you say or how you act or how you dress around specific individuals. Um, so I wasn't, I guess, fully happy, even though I like convinced myself that I was. And who isn't going to take an opportunity that's $30,000 more, you know? That seemed like the right move for the advancement level in my career that I was trying to achieve. But little did I know that that was going to be pretty much the end of corporate for me because, while like I said, I got severance. Little did I know that not even a month later, COVID was going to hit. And when COVID hit, everybody stopped hiring. And if you had a job and you were able to keep it, you were lucky. So to try to replace my six-figure salary in the midst of a pandemic was not going to happen. Point blank, period. Took about 7 months, like applying to jobs just relentlessly, interviews after interviews, and like refusing to take that major pay cut until I finally just said, the hell with it. Like, I have a skill set that people need and can utilize. And there's an untapped market of entrepreneurs and small to medium sized business owners that don't have access to this level and this caliber of executive assistant. And so I birthed my first company, Executives Extension. It was a risk and it was scary, and I've learned a lot, and I'm going to dive into all of that in the entrepreneur episode. But, you know, that was my journey leading up to becoming an entrepreneur. And, everyone has their story. Some people decide to stay in corporate their whole life. They do the 9 to 5 thing, from the time that they graduate college up until the day that they retire. And, they might have a 401k, or maybe they have a pension, or if they're lucky enough, they have both. But they work every day under the hand of somebody else dictating to them what they can and cannot do. And sometimes they learn the hard way that they're just a number to that organization, to that company. They are replaceable, and they can find another you just like that. So, I mean, I would say those are the things that have kind of turned me off about large corporations. Like, there's a lot of value and great things about them. I mean, being able to have like a work family and the benefits that they offer and the opportunities and kind of the bragging rights that come behind some of the larger Fortune 500 names like KPMG, even when I was at United Health Group, that's another big one. Um, they serve their purpose, but it's been a very interesting journey having experienced both sides of the coin now, being on the corporate side and then being on the private side, and really even the entrepreneurial side too, because Locked In was a private company. Um, it's been a journey, and I've learned so much, but I think that it's in this journey that we really learn ourselves, and we learn what our work styles are and what works best for us. And, you know, if it wasn't for me working in those corporate environments, sitting in, offices with executives that are making millions of dollars, I don't know if I would have been equipped and had the confidence that was necessary to start my own company. And believe it or not, coming up at the end of this month, I'll be celebrating 4 years in business. So it's been a wild ride. And they say most businesses fail within the first 5 years, and we're still going strong. So I have a lot to be fortunate and grateful for. And I look at all of the instances that have happened to me. And while I've definitely taken some L's, those L's have, led to some W's for sure. And so, I mean, just to kind of recap, between the young professional to the experienced professional, I was laid off twice, and I had a couple different career advancements along the way. In those times of being laid off, I felt like a failure. But when I saw what came after that, it was just so advantageous for me. The first layoff led for me transitioning from a career in corporate finance, being what I felt like was a robot, to a career in business administration where I genuinely and truly felt like an independent contributor. For the first time, I felt like my career had meaning. And then from my second layoff, in corporate led to me actually learning that I can be a successful entrepreneur. And now I'm a serial entrepreneur and I have 3 businesses. So I guess the main message I want you guys to take away from this episode is learn from your losses and try to see the silver lining in them all. Because I promise you, like, the greatest next best thing that's going to happen to you is on the other side of you licking your wounds from that loss. I promise you that. So if you're kind of struggling right now and you're feeling like you don't know what to do with your career, and maybe you're in between wanting to make a career change, or maybe you're just really unhappy with your job and you're trying to figure out how to speak with your superior, I ask you to share this message with that person, the person who's feeling lost and needs a little bit of guidance and direction when it comes to their career. Hopefully this message resonates with them and gives them the confidence they need to make that really difficult decision that they're kind of seesawing with. So, as always, if this one resonated with you, or if you know someone who needs to hear it, please share it with them. We're just trying to build out this community and grow our tribe, heal together, get stronger together, and continue to find success together. Lots of love and sparkle.
They take my confidence for cockiness. Not knowing I pray like I'm hunting. I stay in his word like I'm looking for something. Take notes, he giving instructions. Working on me, why is you rushing? I'm trusting the process like I'm under construction. I'm proud of who I'm becoming. Okay, I speak a little different. The words got life cause I'm under submission. How could I stay down when he risen? Stay close to the sun, they sweating the fact that I'm glistening like this ain't a given. They think cause I'm bold, I think that I'm better.